Friday, everyone, and welcome to MALN Opinion Plus, a weekly series coming at you every Friday. This is a space for our opinions where we talk about current events and questions that in the community are curious to know. Today we are joined by Maria Z. Mossaides, Director of Massachusetts Office of the Child Advocate. Before she began her position in 2015, Director Mossaides served as the Executive Director of Cambridge Family and Children's Service. She is also currently a board member for International Orthodox Christian Charities. Welcome, Director Mossaides, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Yes, I'm excited. So I'd like to start our conversation by discussing what general or broad impacts the pandemic has had on the office's regular operations. And some of our audience might not know much about the Office of the Child Advocate, so this would be a great time to just give us some sort of explanation on its work and mission.
Sure. The Office of the Child Advocate is a very special agency. Amongst half the states now have offices of the Child Advocate. We are an independent agency, which means that we do not report directly through the chain of command to the governor. And our responsibility is to oversee all children's services for the various agencies that deliver children's services, from education to human services. We also run a complaint line because our goal is to make sure that every child in Massachusetts gets appropriate, timely, and quality services. So if families are experiencing difficulty in accessing services, they can call our helpline and also get an intervention or a referral to a source that will be able to help them. Like everyone else, our staff always worked in Boston in one of the state office buildings. And so within a couple of days of the governor declaring a shutdown, we moved our operations to individual people's houses. And so we have been working remotely now for the better part of 10 months. I, as the director of the office, come in about once a week in order to sign documents and to copy things and send them to staff as needed. But we are basically currently working remotely.
That's really interesting. And so can you go a little bit more into that? Like, how is that possible? How was that
Sure. So if you can imagine, in the public sector, in the private sector, people work remotely all the time. It's sort of not favored in the public sector because people feel that public employees somehow will cheat and not work for a full day. So this has been a big change for everyone in state government. We had to equip people with computers that had security so that they could operate out of their home environment, because the information that we have, which is information about people's lives, needs to be kept highly secure. So we had to sort of move our operations to our 10 staff people's houses and make sure that their internet was secure and that we were using equipment that would guarantee the confidentiality of the information that we have. We had to buy everyone's cell phones. No one had cell phones because they used offices' cell phones in order for them to be able to return calls to families and to children, so that people did not use their own personal phones. So everyone now has a much better equipment, and we expect that for the next several months at least, until the citizens get vaccinated and the governor allows individuals to come back to the office full time, that we will continue to work remotely. We've all learned how to use Zoom and WebEx. And one of the benefits is, as we're going to probably talk, that the Office of the Child Advocate is in charge of, leads many task forces. And that, in fact, the participation of the task force members has increased because no one has to drive to Boston to participate. So the idea that you can participate by electronic, virtually, has really increased the number of people who are participating, and also increased the opportunity for citizens to participate in the meetings that we hold that are subject to the open meeting law. So there's been some benefits to going remotely, but clearly I think what we miss is being in the office and the intimate interaction between our small team.
Right, right. It's really good to see the different, like you said, positive and negatives, how there's
Yep.
pros and cons to this.
Pros and cons.
Yeah, different learning that everyone's doing, different remote.
Right.
Um, so on our NHL series, I had the pleasure of speaking to Director Moira O'Neill of New Hampshire's Office of Child Advocate, and she explained to me that a majority of reports of suspected abuse and neglect come from schools regarding children. And with remote learning, she said that the pandemic has complicated schools' abilities to recognize warning signs among students. And I'm wondering if Massachusetts has seen this similar trend with schools submitting a majority of reports, and if you would share this concern for Massachusetts.
Yes. Nationally, we are all dependent on mandatory reporters to identify children and families that may be at risk of abuse or neglect. And Massachusetts is no different than the other states. With schools closed, the teachers and educators, and that just not only includes schools, but includes all kinds of daycare options, that what we have are those extra set of eyes, and the sort of level of trust that students have with their teachers. So they're likely to say something to a teacher that they might not say to anybody else. And nationally and in Massachusetts, there was a between a 50 and 60% drop starting in March of the number of complaints of abuse and neglect filed with our state. One of the concerns that the Office of the Child Advocate had was that we wanted to make sure that teachers who were able to link up with their students remotely, and we know in Massachusetts that that was a challenge because students didn't have the equipment or they didn't have access to the internet. So not every child in the spring, and certainly still not every child this fall, is being able to access school remotely. So one of our concerns was that the Department of Children and Families and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education came together and issued some guidelines to teachers for what to look for when you are dealing with a student remotely. So that guidance was issued. The other thing, and this was very important for the Office of the Child Advocate, because what we know historically is that in times of national crisis and economic turmoil, there is an increase in abuse and neglect. And clearly, the pandemic that represented tremendous stress, not just from an economic basis, but stress because parents now had children at home 24/7 and had to act as teachers as well as parents. And that many families experienced the death of a family member. And so there was the emotional toll. What we did is we launched in the spring a public awareness campaign that reached out to all communities in multiple languages. And what we tried to do is to encourage families to reach out and get help. That if any time was appropriate for people to need help, this was the time. And that the Massachusetts government was prepared to help them. So we worked with the 211 system, with the family resource centers, with our own helpline to gear people up so that we were able to respond to individuals who needed help. And in Massachusetts, the Office of the Child Advocate was able to, with some federal funding, buy and distribute 200 extra Chromebooks to children who were in state custody who needed Chromebooks in order to participate in school and also visit with their families remotely. So there was a big effort of what I would say a prevention effort, right? We wanted to make sure that people knew that there was help available, and we wanted to eliminate the fear and the stigma of people asking for help, right? Because even people who may have never asked for help, this was the time when they probably needed help.
Right. I haven't thought about that. That's a great thing to point out, and it makes sense, yeah, why all of that was crucial. I'm wondering if any of that also influenced, those motives of making sure people have these resources, if that led to launching the two brand new websites this October, Handhold Massachusetts and Safe Kids Thrive.
Yep, Handhold was definitely a project that we launched as a result of the pandemic. And it was a project designed to help parents identify whether their children were experiencing mental health or behavioral health problems. We're really proud of Handheld because it was developed with individuals representing the diversity of Massachusetts communities. And we have it available in 6 languages, which include English, Spanish, Portuguese, Simplified Chinese, Haitian Creole, and Vietnamese. So it's widely available. And it asks parents to answer kind of 3 questions, which is, should I worry? Gives parents a sense about whether what they're seeing in their children requires the intervention of perhaps of a physician. It talks about what can I do, and it offers a whole bunch of tips and strategies that have worked for other families, and then links people to resources, answering the question, who can help. We are really proud of Handheld, and we hope that you will publicize the link, and that so that families in Massachusetts can take advantage of that, and that children and families can figure out whether they're doing okay, get some help, get some tools. And we expect this year to expand Handheld. So we are about to launch new modules of Handheld within the next 6 months. We're really excited about this project.
Okay, that is exciting. And absolutely, we'll be having links and more information of both of those sites in our resources. The accessibility is an amazing thing that you're prioritizing that with the websites. Can we have any hint to what the modules might be, or that's still in progress?
I think we're going to sort of expand focus. The Handheld was designed for children in elementary school at this particular point. We didn't want to wait launching it because we knew that parents needed tools. And so what we're going to do is create modules for younger kids from 0 to 5, and then for high school students, because high school students have their own stresses. When you think about kids who are in high school, and the missing out of their social lives, right? Because they're teenagers, they want to hang out with their friends, they want to date, they want to go to the prom, they want to do a whole bunch of things. And this pandemic has put a crimp in their life. So they're experiencing some unique frustrations. And I'm sure it's really hard for their parents to keep saying, no, 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 you can't go out, right? You need to stay in, you need to practice safe practices, when really what they want to do is be with their friends. So it will focus a little on the younger children and also focus on the older children.
Right. Okay. Amazing. Thank you. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but there's so much your department's working on that I hope we'll have you in the future and discuss more.
We would be really happy to come back. Part of our job is to work with the legislature and state agencies in really focusing public policy debates. So we spend a lot of time creating websites that produce the best data that we have, because our goal is to be able to have public policy debates where we're not arguing over the facts, but we're arguing over the policy implication of the facts. So we have launched the first comprehensive juvenile justice database, and that's something that we are really proud of. And we expect that we will continue to enhance that database. And we're also really excited that the efforts that the legislature put in place about reducing children involved in the juvenile justice system, that first group of data indicates that we are making some progress, although we have a lot of progress to make in terms of racial and ethnic disproportionality in the juvenile justice system.
Absolutely. I look forward to following your work and learning more about this and the progression of your success in this work. Thank you so much for talking with us, Dr. Mossaides, and for being our guest on MALN Opinion Plus.
We will be happy to come back at any time. Thank you for the opportunity to share this information.
Of course. It was nice talking to you.
Bye.
Bye. So everyone, please tune in next week for another episode. Follow us on Twitter at MA Latino News and Instagram at MA_Latino News. I'm Belen Dumont with MALN Opinion Plus. See you all next time.